What's going on, y'all? Machiavelli Mills TV. So look, y'all, I know I'm a little late with this movie review. However, in my opinion, it's better late than never, right? So look, y'all, this movie review will be about the 2021 sequel of Candyman. Before I start getting into the grade that I give the film, and before I start getting into the good and bad of the film, I'm gonna get into basically the origins of horror, not horror, the origins of Candyman and the origins of the trauma that the original Candyman caused me as a kid, right? So just imagine that original Candyman came out in 1992. I wasn't born until January of 93, and I wouldn't see that film until about 98 or 99, at the time when I'm about 5 or 6 years old. So just imagine watching that scary ass movie at 5 or 6 years old, right? And I'm watching it in Chicago, Illinois, because that's where I was born and raised and continue living until this day, right? So I watched this movie in Chicago, Illinois, but not only are we watching it in Chicago, we're watching it in the Robert Taylor Project housing. I'm in my great aunt's apartment in the Robert Taylors, right? The Robert Taylor Projects closely resemble the Cabrini Green Projects. They are structured the exact same way. So I'm watching this movie about this black man in his trench coat with a hook for a hand killing folks in the projects, and we going to the projects every single day because my aunt was watching us or babysitting us while my mom worked. So I'm scared as hell because I saw this film and I'm like, man, oh my God. Like Tony Todd's presence and his aura on film on screen was so powerful. You ain't even want to play with that spirit if you was a kid in the hood in Chicago. We not playing with that shit. Be like, oh no, I'm never sent to this day. I've never said Candyman in the mirror 5 times because Tony Todd was he was just that menacing, that horrifying. Like he sold me so much. I wasn't playing with it at all. Like I was scared to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night. I was running to the bathroom. Or rather, probably holding my pee in because I didn't want to go to the bathroom because I thought Candyman was gonna get me when all the lights was out in the middle of the night. Right? I was just that scared. So when I heard that they were doing a 2021 sequel, like I was all in. You know what I mean? I saw that Jordan Peele's name was attached to the movie, and me being a fan of Jordan Peele's previous work, I loved Get Out. I love Us. So I'm like, I want to see what he's going to do with this film. Now, I knew he wasn't directing the film. The film was directed by Nia DaCosta, but I knew that I had heard that he had co-written it with Win Rosenfeld and also Nia DaCosta. So I'm like, I want to see the spin he's going to put on it, especially after I saw the trailer and they got Destiny's Child, Say My Name, they got it playing like eerily. Like the same way they flipped the I Got Five on it, right, by the Loonies, right? So I'm like, man, I really want to see what they're going to do with this film. Let me give the plot of the story of the film. The plot of the film is there's a young man by the name of Anthony. Anthony's a struggling painter. He's trying to get his painting career off the ground. He has a girlfriend who like is a director of an art exhibit, so she's into art, so he's dating her. And the girlfriend's brother is telling the story of Candyman, the legend of Candyman, this black ghost that had a hook for a hand that was killing folks in the Cabrini Green project housing, right? And he tells a story about how back in the day during that time, Candyman kidnapped a small baby, and so on and so forth. And after Anthony hears the legend of Candyman, he becomes so intrigued with it because he becomes intrigued with it that he uses Candyman as the focus of his art, right? Candyman has now become the subject of his art, and he just like immerses himself into the legend of Candyman itself. He does it so much that he goes back to the Cabrini Green area where the area where the Cabrini Green projects once stood. All that was left was the row houses. But he goes over to the area to try to get a feel for Candyman and try to continue on painting all these magnificent paintings, right? So he meets a man by the name of Burke. Burke is a resident. He used to live in the Cabrini Green projects, and he tells about the horrors that Candyman caused within the time that he was living, right? And so he tells about his version of Candyman. He like, no, that Candyman that I knew he looked like a man. He looked like a man that I saw in the projects by the name of Sherman. Sherman was a man in the projects that had a hook for an arm, but he was a nice man. He would just be passing out candy to all the kids in the neighborhood. But at some point, razors started to show up in candy amongst the hood. So the police thought that Sherman was out here giving the kids candy with razors, so they killed him unjustly. And it was unjust because after they killed him, they found that razors were still showing up in the candy, so they found out that they killed the wrong guy. However, Sherman's spirit came back as vengeful, and he came out to seek vengeance for what was done to him unjustly, right? And he was killing not only just the police members that did it, but causing havoc all throughout the hood. In fact, we found out later in the film that Burke's sister was killed by The Sherman version of Candyman, uh, during his childhood. Like Burke's sister was killed. But it's just so odd to me that even though we didn't learn that Burke's sister was killed by Candyman, like he talks about Candyman in such a fascinating way, right? He's not like deterred from talking about it. He's not scared of talking about it. Like he seems almost excited to tell Anthony about the legend of Candyman. I'm like, damn, this dude seems rather invested in the Candyman legacy. Like he really just like he is really excited about talking about it. I'm like, this is weird as hell. Like his whole aura is kind of weird to me, right? So, nonetheless, he tells Anthony about Candyman. Anthony continues to paint Candyman. He has a Candyman exhibit at the art exhibit, and he has paintings of Candyman, but he also has a mirror there for people to, like, I guess if they want to play with the legend and say Candyman's name in the mirror 5 times and play with it, he's cool. Anthony doesn't think that nothing's going to occur from it, but he just feels like this would be a nice finishing touch to the art pieces that he's painted. He doesn't have a thrilling time at the art exhibit. He goes and he leaves or whatever, and is what it is. However, after the art exhibit is over with, some of the workers or the people that were over the exhibit are still there. They're about to have sex, but the girl says Candyman in the mirror 5 times, and Candyman comes and kills her and the man, right? So the next morning, the news of the killings the killings make the news, basically, right? It's all over the news, but they don't just say that somebody was killed there. They say that those individuals were killed next to a painting by Anthony. And oddly enough, Anthony is not even feeling sympathetic about the murders. He's just so happy that his name is being spread all across the room. His name is now being spread all across the news. And he's like, man, my art career is finally taking off. I'm getting my name out there. This is what I always wanted. So on and so forth, right? So he continues diving into the Candyman legacy, continues talking to Burke, continues these Candyman paintings. But as he's painting Candyman and as he's getting immersed in the Candyman legacy, he starts to notice that his body is transforming. His arm starts to decay, starts to look like it's rotting, and he starts like even trying to peel skin off of his flesh, but it's like it's hurting him, right? He also sees the fact that like we see him going through like a trance-like state at times, right? Where it seems like something else is controlling his body, and Anthony is not in control of it, right? He's zoning out. Even when he's painting these Candyman paintings, it looks like he's not even there. It looks like somebody else is in his body and is controlling him making these Candyman paintings, right? So time goes on. He starts to get so immersed with Candyman, and we see that when he looks into the mirror, he doesn't see a reflection of himself any longer. He sees a reflection of a man who looks like the Sherman version of Candyman that Burke was talking about, right? Got the hook on his arm, and he looked like, what the hell is going on with me? And he notices that something is happening, something eerie and something fishy. So he then goes out, he finds out that he was born in a hospital in the same area where the Cabrini Green Projects was. He goes and seeks out his mother, who is estranged from him, and he finds out that he was the baby that was kidnapped by the Tony Todd version, Tony Todd, but by the Daniel Robitaille version of Candyman. He finds this out, and he loses it. But he loses it to the point where he feels helpless because he knows he can't outrun the inevitable. At some point, Candyman has made a connection to him when he kidnapped him as a kid. He's chosen him to carry out the Candyman legacy, to be the new Candyman, and he can't outrun it any longer. So he's like, what the hell is, he just becomes fearful of that. But even so after he finds out that he's Candyman, the character by the name of Burke, he kidnaps Anthony, who he lures Anthony back to where the Cabrini Green Project row houses are. We see him cutting Anthony's hand off. He's kidnapped Anthony's girlfriend after she comes and searches for him. And he's basically admitting, look, I lured him into this Candyman legacy. I knew that he was the baby that was kidnapped. So I wanted him to come back. I wanted him to try to investigate Candyman because I knew that they were further along the process of him becoming the next Candyman, right? Burke wants the Candyman legacy to live because at that point, when Candyman was living, gentrification was not occurring. Like no police wanted to come into the area. Like they didn't want to, no non-black people would want to come into the area. They were pushing, but since the Candyman legend had been gone from the area, like gentrification was occurring. Black people were being pushed out of the neighborhood, and he didn't like it. So in order to stop the process of gentrification, he felt like the Candyman legend needs to be alive and well, and to make people be scared again to come to that area so that he and other black people can still remain. But I'm looking like, ain't nobody gonna want to stay in that area if they know it's something out here killing folks. Like, what the hell sense does that make? Right? Because in the movie, the original Candyman didn't just kill white people or kill people who did something wrong. He killed anybody who summoned him. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, but I guess he feels like if nobody say Candyman's name, people gonna be too scared. Everybody gonna be okay. But the other people who are gentrifying the neighborhood, they're gonna be too scared to come over here. Burke represents the black person in the hood that does not want to leave. They have an attachment to the hood. They love it so much, they don't want to leave at all. So he doesn't like gentrification occurring. He knows if the Candyman legend is recreated, it's going to shut down all the gentrification. However, in the process, Burke is basically trying to cause harm to Anthony's girlfriend, and then she escapes. No, so she kills Burke, right? But in the process of killing Burke, she's holding Anthony after Anthony's had his arm chopped off and so on and so forth. And the police come and they think that Anthony is the person that killed Burke. So they shoot and kill Anthony, which speeds up the process of him becoming the actual Candyman. And at the end of the movie, we see that Daniel Robitaille, like, they use CGI to make him look youthful, but we see that Daniel Robitaille is his version of Candyman comes out and says, tell everyone that Candyman is alive and well, and let's keep this legend going, right? And that's where the movie ends. So, all right, now let me just talk about what I give this film. I feel like that they did a great twist on this movie because I feel like the backstory and everything was really, really good. However, I thought the execution was bad. I thought the execution was bad because of this, right? The original Candyman, like, y'all remember me talking about how scared and terrified I was of the Candyman played by Tony Todd. The Candyman played by Anthony, or the Sherman version of Candyman, is really not terrifying at all. In fact, he's more terrifying when we see him as a regular human being, a regular nice guy, just coming through the walls, humming the Willy Wonka theme song while he has like the candy in his hand. He seems more terrifying coming through the wall as a regular person than he is as a ghost or an actual entity. You know what I'm saying? This movie is not scary like the original ones were, and it's because the Candyman, he doesn't have a strong presence the way that Daniel Robitaille did on Tony Todd's Candyman did. When Tony Todd's Candyman was on screen, you felt it was a menacing aura. It was horrific. It was just like you were shuddering, like you were just shaking in your boots. This one, like the scariest parts was Burke trying to chase the girlfriend in the dungeon. You know what I'm saying? And when we seen when he looked up at the sky and saw Sherman or whatever, and when Sherman was coming through the wall. Other than that, it really wasn't scary like the other ones were. However, I did like the story, basically how they spend it to let me know that Candyman isn't just one person. Like, it started with Daniel Robitaille, but it is in fact an entity that represents the injustices that black people have endured for centuries at the hand of white supremacy, right? In fact, the entity uses people who were wrongfully killed due to racism to seek vengeance for that, right? And I'm like, okay, that's a good way to put it, because at that point, you can have, like, that revelation can work well for, like, sequels or, like, spinoffs, other films or TV shows or whatever. So I'm like, okay, that's a cool way to do it or whatever. And so when I'm watching the movie, like, the Candyman legend, like, it sets the Candyman legend as a hive, right? A hive of spirits who were victims of racial violence, right? Daniel Robitaille, the original Candyman, acts as the queen bee, for lack of better words, of this hive. And he is making sure that history repeats itself by recreating the Candyman legend in every generation, because that's where he draws his power from, right? Sherman was a recreation of him and the injustices that he endured. And now Anthony, who has just been killed wrongfully by police, he is now a recreation of Candyman, basically, because he was wrongfully killed. And now he is a recreation of that. You know what I mean? I thought that was done very, very well. When I thought about it at the end, I'm like, okay, well, now he is a victim of racial of injustice or whatever. And now, like, Daniel Robitaille is trying to come forward in a way to invoke memory of his tragedy and to induce fear so that tragedies like his, like Anthony's, like Sherman's, will stop occurring in society. I'm like, okay, that's dope. That's really, really good the way they did that. It's just that on film, it just doesn't feel like a horror movie at all. Like, I don't like the off-screen kills. I did not like that. If you're gonna kill somebody, like it was powerful when we saw Tony Todd driving a hook through the dude while he was sitting in the chair, right? That was a powerful scene. I'm like, show some of these kills. It doesn't, I don't like the whole not showing the kills. Like, we just see blood squirting from across the stall or whatever like that and not showing the kills. That didn't make it terrifying or menacing in my opinion, right? Also, I don't feel a strong connection to the characters the way I did to Helen in the original 1992 film, the way I did to Vanessa Williams' character, the way I did. You don't feel like the characters they don't have a strong connection to each other. Even the chemistry on camera is really not really that strong to me. You know what I mean? You don't feel connected to these characters to where you actually care about them and their well-being the way I wanted to, right? I really wanted to really care for Yahya Abdul-Mateen's character as, well, you know, Anthony, the new Candyman. I really wanted to feel for him while he was going through these. His body was transforming. He didn't know why. I really wanted to really feel for him, but I didn't feel for him the way I wanted to. And I'm like, damn, like it really didn't do a good job of you feeling empathetic about him going through a transformation that was inevitable. Like, I'm like, man, I don't like that. I'm like, they could have done it to where we felt some type of compassion for all these individuals who are going through these tragedies, right? Or like the people who were dying, we didn't feel no connection to the people who were dying. We are none of that. I'm like, I don't like that aspect of it, right? And then you have some cheesy moments in my opinion, right? At the end of the movie, what is the girlfriend's? I gotta look up the girlfriend's name because this is really gonna get. I don't want to just keep saying the girlfriend. What was her name in the movie? I'm gonna look it up. Her name is Brianna in the movie, right? Brianna, at the end, she's basically handcuffed because she's believed to. So they got her handcuffed. I think they did have her handcuffed in the police vehicle, and the police is telling her, "Look, you're gonna tell our version of the story. Basically, Anthony was he was the one doing this. He attacked us, and that's why we shot him. You're gonna tell that that's what happened, right?" And so she says, I'll say whatever you want if you just turn the mirror to me. And dude, the police officer's like, what? And he turns the mirror to her and then lets her say Candyman 5 times. I'm like, what the hell? Like, it just seemed corny and cheesy to do that. She's like, turn the mirror to me. Candyman. Yeah, she's saying it slow as hell. I'm like, bro, like, come on, like, nah, man. I know they heard of the Candyman legacy. Is he not gonna try to stop her from saying that? Is he gonna turn the mirror away from her? Is he gonna let her keep saying Candyman all super damn slow? Like, it just didn't feel like natural in that scene. It just seemed like really, really cheesy. Something that would only happen in like a 1980s film, the way that part happened, right? I didn't like that. You know what I'm saying? I didn't like that. Again, I didn't like that the Candyman didn't have a strong presence. I didn't like that we didn't have a strong connection to the characters. None of the characters that were killed we had a connection to. We didn't have a connection to Anthony that was strong. I didn't feel that strong of a chemistry between Anthony and Brianna that I wanted to. There were certain cheesy scenes in it. Like, I didn't like that, man. You off-screen kills, like, it just wasn't. It wasn't scary. And the purpose of, to me, Candyman is a horror film. You know what I'm saying? I feel like they were so into highlighting the social issues of the film so much that it just took out the horror element, right? And I'm a person, I don't have a problem with so don't come on here with that, it's too woke shit. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like social or racism was a essential point. Racial issues were an essential point of the first film, right? This young white woman, she was only intrigued by Black urban legends. She didn't care about what was going on with the individuals in the community, the injustices they were facing for real. She was just trying to get a good grade in school. Like, you know what I'm saying? She was just trying to do something that was good for school. She didn't really care about the people in the community like that until the Candyman legend itself showed and she saw what was going on in the neighborhood and how menacing he was or whatever, right? And it also spoke on gentrification in that movie as well, right? So, like, there were always racial elements of the Candyman film, so I had no problem with that at all. Like, and I'm a black man. Like, okay, like, gentrification is a real damn thing. Redlining and stuff like that is a real damn thing that our community is affected by. So I had no problem with that. It was that I felt that they were so focused on the social issues and getting social issues across that it was just like, it wasn't done in good favor. You know what I mean? Everything was just in your face. Nothing was subtle. Like in the first movie, there were subtle things. Subtle, like it was a subtleness to everything, right? Like in Get Out, like I'm just prime example. Get Out was a great film because the racism in the movie that was portrayed wasn't, it was the subtle racism. It wasn't the obvious Confederate flag, hillbilly, redneck type racism. It was the racism that I love Barack Obama. And, you know, I would have voted for Barack Obama a third time. And oh my God, man, like, acting like black people are so cool, but at the end of the day, they felt like black people were disposable. You know what I mean? And they were just like, basically disposable and easy to throw away. Easy to throw away. They were enamored with the features of the of black people and the cool mystique of black people, but they didn't care about black people for real, right? And so that was subtly done. I feel like Jordan Peele should have used the subtleness that he did in Get Out and in Us and stuff like that, and he should have used it in this film, and I think it would have gotten over much better, and it could have played out on screen much better. But I feel like everything was just so in your face, in your face, in your face. Here's this, here's that. It didn't hit well. It didn't hit well, and I think it could have came across much better. I feel like the film ended too abruptly. It ended too suddenly, and I feel like the movie itself was it was more of an origin film, like the introduction of Anthony becoming Candyman more than a actual scary film. And I know, like, of course, we're introducing a new Candyman legend, but they were so invested, I think, in the social issues and making it an origin story that they forgot to put the elements of fear, of horror into it. Because I don't care what nobody say, like, Candyman was never a social thriller or none of that. It wasn't like a Get Out social type thriller or Us social thriller like Us was. It was a horror film. It was a horror movie for real. You know what I mean? And it did not feel like a horror movie when I watched this. I'm like, yo, this movie just feels like an introduction story rather than a horror film. And that's like not the purpose of horror. It felt like a PG-13. Was the movie PG-13? Because it felt like a PG-13 movie. We didn't see no on-screen kills. I was just like, that was just whack. It was mind-boggling when I saw that. I'm like, yo, like, ain't y'all gonna show this on screen? We just gonna have to look and see somebody, a little image of some legs and a hook in a mirror. We just gonna see people randomly getting killed off screen and just see blood squirting. I mean, we saw the dude get his neck cut or like get, you know, his neck slashed or whatever in the beginning or whatever. But we didn't see Candyman actually doing it in person. We saw like his silhouette on the wall or whatever, or a reflection in the mirror, but we didn't actually see the actual Candyman. And I'm like, that shit is not gonna hit off on screen, man. You gotta actually show him, because again, when you have a first film, if we didn't have a film before this, like that 1992 version of Candyman, I think it would have worked better. But because we have a 1992 version of Candyman where Tony Todd was so strong in his delivery and performance, and he was so menacing, like, you can't have a new Candyman without a menacing dude involved, man. Like, you gotta have a Candyman that's menacing. So the ending of this first film made it seem like there were going to be a sequel when Daniel Robitaille, he comes out and we see the Daniel Robitaille version of Candyman, and he says, tell everyone. It seems like it's going to be another, like a sequel to it, and hopefully that sequel is what I thought this one would be. You know what I'm saying? Hopefully it's menacing, it's thrilling, it's scary, it has horror in it, and we see somebody give a strong performance as Candyman on screen, and it delivers and hits. Hopefully we see that in the new film, because this one just didn't do it, in my opinion, man. I give this movie a 5 out of 10. I like the story. I like the cinematography. I feel like it was shot beautifully and all of that, and the Chicago elements were used very, very great. But I feel like the story, the horror elements were lackluster. All of the horror elements and the connection to the characters was just lackluster, in my opinion. Y'all let me know what y'all think in the comment section below. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, share the video. I appreciate y'all for rocking with me. Machiavelli Mills TV. I'm out. Peace.